He's done it all. Hundreds of skydives, traveled the world, army, police work, intelligence work, and prison. Now he's an author and a biker with an axe to grind. He's Dennis M. Young. Okay, Chapter 8, Serious Poundings. Just that goes into my teen years a bit. We'll do a couple of pages on this. Connor's older brother Don sold some serious pot. He took me along once to pick some up from a member of the Saskatchewan Rebels Motorcycle Club. Viewing a 1 pound bag of high grade marijuana for the first time was like getting dealt a natural royal flush poker hand. I'm glad I didn't play poker back then. Don said my eyes were like saucers and my mouth was hanging open. It turned out that I had hung out with the biker's little brother in grade school, and I knew his family and had been to his folks' place. Between that revelation and a lot of laughs, the biker and I made pretty strong connections. He invited me down to the A4 nightclub to have a beer with them. Don was 6'4" and 270 pounds. He was the head bouncer at the A4. On the way home, I told Don that I was too young to get into the bar and, more importantly, too small. Don said that it was not common for the Rebels MC to invite people to have a beer with them. Not even he had ever been invited to hang around with them. To not show up would be considered a slight, which is okay if I wasn't ever to see them again. So I'm about, I think, 17 or 18 at this time. I casually mentioned that I had access to some high-grade weed to a friend at school. By the next day, I couldn't walk down the hall without being begged for weed. I had yet to write a business plan, yet the customers came in like a tidal wave. People were angry if I didn't take their money. I became financially wealthy more out of peer pressure than anything else. I divided the herb into quarter ounce packages, and I took them to school. In some cases, it was supply or else. Where goods don't move freely, militants will. The weed was known as the best smoke in school, which elevated my status. I didn't realize that without the herb, most of my friends wouldn't have walked across the street to talk to me. But I did have the herb. My friends were a mile wide, but only an inch deep. The job of distributing marijuana in high school came with fringe benefits. The biker never knew what I did with the weed, and he didn't ask. He did know that Don and I showed up often to give him cash. I always made him laugh and sincerely asked about what his family was up to. We really enjoyed each other's company, and I was often found sitting with the bikers at the A4. The bikers bought me beer and watched out for my scrawny underaged ass so the crowd didn't consume me. Don had brought his beautiful 16-year-old niece, Kira, into the club one night and told me to watch her. What a great idea! Get a kid that's underage, undersized, and can't even protect himself to protect a gorgeous young girl in a bar full of over-aggressive, violent felons. I thought, why don't I just go over and kick all the chopped Harleys sitting outside while I'm at it? We weren't sitting with the bikers that night, but they made it their business to look after their friends. The danger I sensed was imminent. I didn't have to wait long before a large man approached us and asked Kira to dance. Kira refused, and the guy concluded that a broken heart could be mended with a violent outburst. He began taking his frustration out on me by grabbing my jacket and issuing some threats. He didn't realize that my biker friends saw such aggression as an affront to him. A striker, someone that's applying for full membership to the club, I didn't know, had been sent over to us. The biker's arm was the size of my waist, and he was the meanest looking guy I had ever seen. I was about to explain the situation to him so he could defuse things. Before I could say anything, the biker began whacking the guy with an open forehand and backhand over and over again. The victim's friends sat idle and looked on in horror. The man's face was cut to ribbons. He poured blood, and I think he was unconscious, but the beating continued. The bouncers and bar manager didn't say anything. As the lesson concluded, I noted that the striker had flesh and blood dripping from the rings on his fingers. Don came over to drag the guy out and told me to buy the bikers a round of beer. They all gave me a smile when the waitress served them. Outlaw bikers live by a unique set of rules. More and more bikers would have backed their guy up had the man resisted in any way or gave the impression that more bikers were necessary to complete the job. If that didn't work, the weapons would have come out. The motto is, when one's cut, we all bleed. You either have to have the force to beat the shit out of an entire club, their friends and associates, or you have to take a beating. I've seen a lot of people interact with the club. Very rarely was there a problem. But those who initiated force or engaged in offensive rhetoric were dealt with summarily. As I looked over the crowd about an hour later, I was stunned to see that the guy who grabbed me had snuck back into the bar. He was all swollen and cut up. He just sort of sat there sucking on his beer in silence. Unbeknownst to me, one of the bikers told Don that they had backed up his niece and he could return the favor someday. That pissed Don off. He didn't like owing anyone anything. Don was on good terms with him, and it was possible that the bikers didn't want anything at all. They might have just wanted to point out that they could be helpful. I thought it was possible that the beating victim had come back into the bar with a knife or a pistol. I told Don that things could get ugly very fast. Don was already steamed. Now the elements of fear and a great sense of urgency could be added. The guy sat with his back to the wall and looked pretty confident for a guy with so many holes in his face. Don walked Kira and I over to the bikers' table and explained the scenario to them. They just nodded. Don stood about 10 feet away at the entrance, by the entrance to the men's room, which was beside the back emergency exit. The guy eventually made his way through the crowd to the men's room. He must have thought that he had paid a full price for a screw-up, but by coming back, he had made everyone nervous, alert, and ready for violence. Not at all recognizing the danger, he pushed his mouth towards Don's ear, probably to apologize or to buy Don a beer. Don thought he was about to get stabbed or shot. He punched the guy's face so hard that I could hear it over the live band, and the guy went down hard. The other bouncers automatically got involved in the feeding frenzy. Don motioned for me to open the emergency door. The bikers laughed. This was Shakespeare to them. I opened the door as I watched the violence unfurl in a very true and deep form. The bouncers dragged the once beaten, twice stupid guy into the dark back alley. The prior restraint that had been exercised due to too many witnesses could now be unleashed with no inhibitions. After a few minutes of enduring a tsunami of severe kicks and punches to the head and torso, the guy was finally unconscious or dead. Don breathed heavy as he checked the guy for a weapon. He found a long-bladed Bowie knife, which reignited Don's anger. He grabbed the unconscious guy's left wrist with both hands. He put his foot on the guy's chest and yanked his left arm out of its socket. Always willing to learn new techniques, the other bouncers imitated the procedure on the guy's right arm with similar results. Pretty hard to stab somebody with no fucking arms, Don said. We left him lying there and went back into the bar. He may have lain there for a few minutes or days. We never checked. Nothing more was ever heard about the incident.